Guys, we're live. We're talking strategy tonight. Buys, sells, ranks, things like that. That's not Dynasty Trades in 5 for better or worse. So let's get into some strategy talk, guys. Our subscribers sent us some questions. Let's start with this one. If you're in more need for wide receivers than running backs, but hold early firsts, what would your strategy be? Trade the first for wide receivers, reach on a few young guys like the wide receiver one with the 102, or try to trade back? What do you think, guys?
Oh, I like all three of those options. So we have to just pick
Okay.
one. I mean, preferably, I'd like to trade the pick for a wide receiver that's already established, right? Because there's no guessing. I don't have to worry that this guy's going to bust out. Reaching, I guess I don't really look at it as a reach if you're getting the wide receiver one over the wide receiver over the running back two in this class. I like Jahmyr Gibbs, right? But Jahmyr Gibbs isn't in Bijan Robinson's hemisphere, universe. And then trading back, I mean, that's probably my least favorite one to do out of the three strategies. But typically I'd like to just go buy me a wide receiver with that pick, one that already has established themselves.
Okay, so before Scott gets going, what's a wide receiver with that 102? Are you taking a shot at CD Lamb?
Yeah,
would you pay the 102 for CD?
Yeah, we were talking about this in the HQ chat today about would you trade Amon-Ra St. Brown for the 103? So if someone would trade me Amon-Ra St. Brown, if I would trade Amon-Ra St. Brown for the 103, that means I would definitely take him for the 102, or I would, what I mean, maybe buy him for the 102.
Scott, what out of these three options, which one do you think would be a good fit? He said he's more in need of wide receivers than running backs, but he's got those early first. What do you think?
What kind of wide receivers does he need? I think that's the first question you got to ask. Is it I need more wide receivers or I need better wide receivers? They're not the same thing. If it's I need better wide receivers, then you're probably going to have to add one of these picks in a deal to get a better receiver, one that you would feel is an anchor receiver for your roster. If it's I need more receivers because I don't have enough. I mean, we've done some roster reviews where people only have 4 reliable receivers going into next year. So that's a team where you're actually searching for where can I find the best value. At that point, maybe you don't need to go and use the 102 necessarily on a receiver or to get a wide receiver. It's how do I pick up multiple receivers that are going to be within the flex range or the threshold that I talk about. So I think you have to determine which one is it. Is it I have enough receivers and I have enough Curtis Samuel, Tyler Boyd, Michael Gallup those types of receivers where it's like, okay, I'm not going to cut them. They're probably worth seconds at best. I'm better off holding them and seeing if I can maybe sneak out a top 40 or better season out of one of those guys versus sell them for what they're worth. But I also don't have a receiver where I go, okay, that's my receiver that could get me 20 points per game. There's only a dozen of those guys or more a year, and not all of them hit it every year. But those are the ones you probably have to give the 102 or 103 to get one. So in that case, and you're also looking at a deal that's probably a 1-for-1. It's probably not a deal where you're getting multiple pieces. It's okay, I'm giving up my 102 and what's the best receiver I can get. Sometimes it might be one that you don't want to buy, but that could be the West one you need to get. So I think you got to answer that question first.
Yep. Okay, so here's another one that we had. What are your thoughts on DK Metcalf? He's been consistently good all year. We rarely ever talk about him as a top asset. Shane, do you historically love DK? Mm-hmm. I historically love DK. Mm-hmm. Scott does not love DK, right? Are you paying, Scott, in Superflex, are you paying the 107 for DK Metcalf?
Yeah, I didn't historically love DK, but that's because I probably overweighted the situation on DK. If you just isolated his numbers, like I even did this pod on the DNC Patreon earlier in the summer. DK's good, but he was in the mix with a lot of other guys that were also really good, top 20 or better receivers, just in terms of all of their metrics put together. But then you kind of take that group and you adjust for the situation, and I don't think any of us really knew what the situation was going to be. We didn't think it would be even neutral, let alone good. So all of a sudden it becomes good. And now you're looking at DK in one of those situations where, okay, he's probably above average in terms of the offense that he's in. So you almost have to adjust him up into that range of, is he a top 12 receiver? Yeah. Is he a top 4 receiver? No. But I think he's right in that range where he's in the T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like he might be at the end. Historically, he's as good as those guys. So I think it's more of the biased against the situation where you're saying, I would tell you right now and say he has a top 6 situation in the NFL, efficiency wise. Now people would look at that and go, that's fake. That's not going to be sustainable. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. You know what I mean? So I think we're hesitant to put him up there. But you're telling me he has a worse situation than Amon-Ra?
So it's funny that you're saying this. Let me pop this up because this was the other half of the post in the community chat. I would assume he's on the tier of Waddle and St. Brown, but how would you compare DK to the wide receiver assets?
I don't think Waddle and St. Brown are in the same tier. I mean, Scott's talked about this too, though. I think St. Brown, you have to actually put a little higher than Waddle. Like, is Waddle and DK? Look, these tiers are razor thin at a certain point, right? After you get past the first 2 guys, and then you get through the AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and then you get into these guys. Like, they all could move around. I think DK's properly valued. He's a high-end wide receiver too. That is 24 years old, 25 years old. I don't know how old it is. 25. I don't care about his situation anymore. He actually is in a good situation. Geno Smith has been a good quarterback for him. We thought it was going to be really bad. I mean, I can think everybody did. And I thought there'd be an opportunity to buy low on DK this year because I figured his year would suck with Geno, but I was wrong. I think he's properly valued. He's a not low end. He's a high end wide receiver too. Could he be a wide receiver 1? It's in his range of outcomes, but I don't think he's a top 5 dynasty wide receiver by any stretch.
In 1 QB, would you give the 103 for him? DK Metcalf?
Yeah.
Just thinking. Depends on how dangerous I'm feeling. Like, do I just want to try Jordan Addison and be like, well, the wide receiver 1 of the class, he has wide receiver 1 outcomes in his range, whereas DK doesn't really have that. I don't think so. Yeah, I'll go. I'll take the 10. I'll take the 103.
You're taking the pick, or are you paying?
I'm taking the pick. I'm more risky than Scott. So like when I see that the upside is not going to be obtained, like look, coming out of college, I put immense upside on a ton of these wide receivers. And then once they're in the pros a little bit, 3-4 years, I go, oh, okay, this is who you are. That upside's gone. Generally, this is who you are. Who you are after the 3-4 years in the league is who you're going to be. You're not all of a sudden going to turn into Cooper Kupp. And I think that's what he is. He is what he is. He's a high-end wide receiver too. Whereas Jordan Addison, I at least have the hope to go, all right, well, he could come out and smash and be a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, it's weird because we're kind of on the opposite end of the DK spectrum now. I was never off DK in terms of I think he's bad. I was off because I'm going to fade the situation and then be able to buy back in cheaper, but that never happened. Basically, he just has kind of stayed where his price was. The people that were in on him were in on him. The people that weren't, they still can say, oh, I don't really want to pay top 5 prices because he's probably not worth paying more for than some of the other guys in the range. But I mean, you just put his production up this year. And I know this is blasphemy, but you put his production up this year, it's identical to Garrett Wilson. The only difference between the two is there's not fantasy points. I'm looking at all the other stuff.
There's a major difference between the one. One just came out of college and the other's been in the league for 4 years. So that kind of speaks to my point that he is what he is at this point. And I think he's bad.
What I'm speaking to is and this is the trap we fall into. Garrett Wilson will be overvalued after this season because unless he gets 20% better, he's just going to be in the DK Metcalf range. Garrett Wilson could put up 100 catches, 1,250 yards, 10 touchdowns the next 3 years. He's DK Metcalf. Like he has to get to a level to where his efficiency, his situation is elevating him more above where he is right now.
I don't think you could. DK's had 1 season over 1,000 yards. I mean,
what I'm saying is I'm looking at Garrett Wilson. He's benefiting right now because the team is throwing 55 passes a game at 5 yards attempt. If you put him in Seattle right now, he's probably really good, but it's not like you sit there and go, he's Justin Jefferson. You know what I mean? So I think I'd rather have Garrett Wilson because he's a rookie. More people want him than DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf is yesterday's news. There's never anywhere where he's going to be like, I have to have him. I'm going to pay 3 first to get him. You know what I mean? So asset wise, yes, but I think we get in trouble with elevating these guys up to a range where it's like, oh, this Garrett Wilson's the wide receiver 3 in Dynasty. And then you know what? If he just does what he's doing this year for the next 3 years, he'll just slowly fall and fall and fall, and then he's in DK Metcalf range. So that's all. He's real good. He is what Shane said. He's a top 15 receiver, which in any given year he could have a top 5 season.
Right, and we shouldn't undervalue that. And I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes we definitely do. We definitely go, that's all he's ever going to be. That's not that great. And you're like, oh yeah, but it's still 16 points a week, like every week, and he's going to have blow up weeks.
Okay, so this question is from Shay, and we got 86 eyeballs in here. And whatever, that's good. The game is on right now. The Bills game is on. I hope Josh Allen smashes. I need it. Need it in the playoffs. Thanks everyone who's in here. I'm sure you've already hit the thumbs up. They did, right, Shane? We're seeing 88 or so. No. Okay. Updated trade value of Mark Andrews. I'm targeting him for a while, but can't tell how to value him anymore. Do you think a mid-range tight end 1 plus a late first would get it done? No tight end premium, half PPR. So he's saying, do you think a mid-range tight end 1, so you're attacking a tight end 1 to a late first for Andrews?
I mean,
How about this? Freiermuth and the 110. Does that get you Andrews?
I think it might. We sour quickly on tight ends. We sour quickly on everything just because that's what we do. But I will say this: if that's all it took to get Andrews, I would definitely do that.
I love Mark Andrews. He's awesome.
Too.
But why make that trade right now? He's going to suck the rest of the year. I mean, anyone that watched that game today, like their offense is it's broken.
Yeah.
It's broken. It's one of the worst offenses in the league. So, I mean, I don't think it's going to get better. And you know what's going to happen in the offseason, right? You're going to hear the narrative about how Andrews isn't as good as people thought. I mean, look at his numbers. His efficiency dropped off. He's always injured. Not saying I wouldn't do that trade, but it's almost like you're only doing it because it might be available now and it might not be available later. Yeah. But doesn't it kind of feel like one of those deals where you go, why am I in a hurry to trade that deal right now versus
after he just played,
just why not wait a couple more weeks? If that deal is truly available to you now at that price, why wouldn't it be available in a month?
But Scott thinks that people are as pessimistic as him. Look, in the offseason, everyone's optimistic. They're going to spin Lamar Jackson moving to Atlanta is a good thing for Mark Andrews somehow. The spin that's going to come out of it is going to be that, they're going to be a throw-first offense now, and they won't have to worry about those 10 rushing attempts a game that Lamar would take, and now there's going to be even more of a bigger pie for Andrews out there, which I, in theory sounds great. But I just think in the offseason, we tend to get, I'd say, more optimistic than pessimistic about situations and things like that. So I kind of think you might not be able to do that for Mark Andrews in 2 months. Maybe a month.
It's a strategy thing, though. I'm not in. We talk about leverage deals, right? I'm not in a position to give away leverage deals now. There's no rush.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you could miss your opportunity, Shane. There might be a guy that comes with 107 and a tight end, and they get Andrews. You know what I mean? And you miss out, and he's that's the one thing that we don't talk about enough when you're talking about the onesie positions, the quarterbacks, the tight ends. It isn't so much about what you're paying. You're paying for the opportunity when it's available. There might only be one time where an elite tight end moves in your league ever. Mm-hmm. And so it's on the table and you're one button click away from getting the player on your team. Do you hesitate and go, I don't want to do this right now because I can just probably get the same deal in 3 months?
Yep.
Then another contender swoops in with the same level draft pick and another tight end, and boom, he just gets Andrews. All of a sudden, you can't even go offer what you offered to get another one because there isn't another one.
Yeah, and
so I think that's the motivation to do it. Is like, hey, this is the only time a guy like this can become available. I just take it. Same with quarterbacks. Yep. Like if someone puts one on the block, they're willing to move them. You almost take it and ask for forgiveness later. But it just doesn't feel like that's the kind of pivot I want to make in December when it doesn't matter for this year.
So let's put this one up here. Trade calculators. How do you take advantage when your league evaluates trades almost entirely based on online value calculators?
Is this true though?
So I've got a league.
At the beginning,
I've got a league where probably three or four of the 12. Yeah. look at a calculator every single time a trade is made. And
But
if
do
they're
they
a little
always go with the
hesitant,
calculator though?
no, they don't. But the problem is they think enough of a calculator to screenshot it and put it in the DMs. Like they say they're not big calculator people, but then they screenshot Keep Trade Cut or Dynasty Trade Calculator, and they're like, oh, I don't know, look at this. So they care about it enough to where that has sway over it. So let's just say, let's go off of this. Let's assume Dax is in a league where where the league evaluates trades using calculators. What's the play?
I mean, that's the easiest answer in the world is use the calculator against them and just stack trades like the 3-for-1s. Like literally, it's the easiest route is, all right, well, if I just keep adding shit, the calculator is basically going to tell me that this matches up. Like eventually it's going to be right. Now, yeah, you can't add 17 pieces for one, but I mean more from a more 1,000 feet view, it lets me know that that person isn't very creative, that their mind is a little too binary. It's a little, black and white, and I'm going to be able to outsmart them and out strategize them because I'll be able to think outside of the box. But from just a simple solution, just use the trade calculator against them.
Yeah, that's my experience is even if you're using one, you're only using one when you want to use it. You're only using it when it's a deal that you're trying to justify a deal that you want to already make a decision on. Whether it's a reject or one you're trying to send and get accepted, you're using the trade calculator. Someone can send you a random trade the other way, and then it's like, well, okay, the trade calculator favors you, or favors me, but I just don't want to do that deal. So it's a loaded question because are there actually players out there that literally will just follow the calculator on any trade? Maybe,
probably.
but technically, usually it's they'll follow them when they want to follow them. But then if you send them one the other way, they'll look at it and go, "Yeah, that's close enough. I'm just gonna not do it." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I mean, I'm with Shane. Just take advantage of it. If there's ever a close deal, the calculator is going to be the sweetener to get it done. But yeah.
Okay, so let's put this up here. Fly Meatwad says, "Congrats to Shane on 5 years for his podcast, Dynasty Trades HQ." If you guys are listening to this, you're subscribed, or you're not subscribed, or watching this on replay, download Dynasty Trades HQ on your podcast player. All right. Congrats, Shane, and great America's game this morning from Scott. Thank you, Fly Meatwood. Thanks for the shout out.
I actually went back and listened to the first Trades HQ show. Like Shane had mentioned, he did a bunch of times. And that was pretty bad. But you know what?
Look at our first
I'm not saying that negatively. It definitely it's cool from somebody that has done my own podcast, started podcasts, evolved, brought new people in. It is cool to hear the way you interact today versus then.
Yep.
And just the way that you all kind of presented like yourselves, you know what I mean? It was, you could just tell that it was like, yeah, this was the first time you'd ever done a podcast, but then you get like 20 minutes into it and you're like, yeah, like that, this has some potential,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool.
It is cool. You could definitely see the rapport that you guys had in the first episode, which is weird because it's like now it's like you're all in the same, you're just used to hearing you all three together. But I went back and listened to it just so I could give you shit.
No, there were some definitely bad takes. I will say that. 5 years is a long time.
It is
long time.
And I liked how Sipes, when they asked Sipes what he did, he was the lead ADP.
Senior counseling of ADP.
The senior ADP collector. I think it was. It was like, okay, that's a sweet role.
All right. Well, congrats. Let's move over to this question from Avatar. Do you guys like Olave, Wilson, London more than Jackson Smith-Njigba, Quentin Johnson, and Addison? Will depend on situation. Doesn't talent override situation in Dynasty?
It should. When it's close, you would lean situation. And I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't dug into. I know Addison's breakout age and his dominator rating are really good. I don't know about JSN and Quentin. I haven't looked at it yet to compare them to Olive Wilson and London's yet.
They're all good.
Yeah, I would assume they are, though. JSN, obviously JSN's breakout age was absurd, and he had a smart. Well, yeah, so his dominator rating was also absurd, and so is Quentin Johnson's. So never mind. Yeah, they're all good. So I mean, the difference is I've seen Olave and Wilson do it in the league. So I lean a little towards them, But like if someone came to me and they're like, hey, you want Quentin Johnson and a second for London, considering that I have like 12 Londons, I'd probably be like, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah,
We can do that.
You have plenty of exposure.
Yeah.
You could diversify away from
Yeah.
London.
I mean, we would love that trio to put up the numbers that this trio did, the one that you're talking about with Olave, London, and Wilson. And I know London soured some people. Wilson had like 3 or 4 games where he did nothing, but like the usage for those guys as rookies was really good. So you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that would trade them straight up for. Like, to me, if someone comes and says, I love Jordan Addison so much, I'll give you Drake London for him. It's like, okay. Like I'm not going to sit here and say I know which one's better. So they're kind of like all in the same boat, and I'll just lean with the guys I've already seen.
I will say this. I'll lean Olave and Wilson over everyone else on that list. And then it's just what mood am I in? How many players do I have in my leagues, which is going to be interesting to look at. Now I'm dropping some leagues, and then Clay's going to make me join some more. So it's dependent on two different things. The one thing, though, is, again, like Scott just said, we've seen those 3 do it in the league. You know what I mean? And I know we always think that every player is going to hit, and it feels like every wide receiver hits anymore, but they don't. They don't. At least half of them are going to go bad, Sky Moore.
All right, so let's put this one up here. This is just funny. We don't have to spend too much time talking about this, but the last part makes me laugh. Multiple teams currently open of leaving this offseason my league. How would you approach the new team owners? Expect them to be open to turning over their roster? I just laughed when I read this because, yeah, people get a new roster, they just want to blow it up and make it their own, man. That's the most fun. You've got new owners in there and everybody's just hurling freaking trade offers at them. Gimme. It's a firing squad. You got to be prepared. You got to be sitting there involved, participating. Otherwise you're going to lose it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm like a shark too. As soon as that blood hits the water, I'm like, all right, did you guys give him or her, access to the team yet? Can I send an offer? If not, can I just DM the offer and agree to it? They haven't even looked at their roster, and I'm like, no, I know where your roster is. Don't worry. This is what you need. Why don't you take this? It's just fun blowing up an orphan, like, because you don't feel like an orphan's yours. When you go in the league and, like, even if you win a title, but you didn't make a lot of moves with that orphan, you're like, did I really win, or did I just Barry Switzer this to a title? You know what I mean? So you definitely want to blow it up.
I prefer taking over dispersal teams over orphans just because I can kind of shape my roster construction the way that I want. But it's also good when you have a team that takes over an orphan because they're typically more willing to make moves because the team isn't constructed the way they want, most likely. Whereas I have seen where people will get into a dispersal and it's fun because it generates activity for the league during the dispersal, but it's also really hard to trade into the dispersal. And once they've drafted their teams, I think it's harder to trade with those teams. So I think it's just what Shane said. Like you smell blood in the water and you at least throw stuff out there to see especially if there's players on that team where you've been trying to get. And the last time the owner that had them before probably is either wouldn't trade him or was just inactive, like you weren't really able to get anything going with that team. So yeah, it's good to have somebody that comes in and doesn't like what they're getting, and they're more apt to move.
Yep. Okay. Let's go to, okay. What's the value of older top tier guys like Hill, Diggs, or Cup after this season? What should you be asking for in return?
Well, one of those is not created like the other two. I think Cup is clearly a step behind those other two.
Because of the injury?
He's older. Mm-hmm. He's got a situation that I think is very much in flux. And he's also got, I guess the coach and the quarterback are part of the situation. So both of those things are up in the air. And he's going to be, he's going to be 31 at the end of next season. So he's definitely going to be 30 in the offseason. And I know when people click on a player and they see age 30, it's not the same as age 28 or age 29, like you're going to get that with Hill and Diggs. They're turning 29. So it's a little bit of a difference. You get an extra year with those guys. And I think, especially if they kind of end the season strong and help people win, like they are going to probably, I think people are going to be much more apt to go, oh yeah, I'd pay the 105 for one of those guys, 104, 103, Cooper Kupp. I don't know if I'd even give a top 10 pick, maybe like a week before the season if everything looks good. But at that point, it's probably too late. The person that has him is going, man, the Rams are running it back with Stafford and McVay. That means another 120 catch season for Kupp, and you're not getting him for a late first. So kind of got to have some conviction on Kupp. The other two, I think, are going to hold their value.
Yeah, I'd say for every 10 roster starter spots, I'm okay to have 2 old wide receivers. So that means if I had like the 105 and the 107, yeah, I'd ship them off to go get Diggs and Kupp, or Hill and Kupp, or whatever variation of that I could get. I'd be fine with that. I just don't want to overload on all the old people. You know what I mean? I don't want to sell off all my picks. But every offseason, I start to look for old people that I want to buy. And this year, it's probably going to be Diggs and Hill and Kupp and Devontae Adams because, yeah, they're all going to be a year older. Although Hill's value probably is going to be pretty much flat as it was last year because it didn't increase after last season.
Okay, let's put this one in here. How do we play young late round QBs? I have Matt Corral on Taxi. How do I play that next year?
Easy, you cut him.
Yeah,
I'm not kidding. He's a cut. There's probably 60 quarterbacks I'd rather roster over him. And I don't even want to roster 60 quarterbacks into the offseason, but I'd rather roster guys like Case Keenum, Tyrod Taylor. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, I think Corral, unfortunately, getting hurt, it sucks because you know what? I think Corral would have got a shot this year too. That's the thing. Like he would have gotten a chance in Carolina, but the regime that drafted him got fired. The pedigree that he has basically promises him nothing going forward. So I mean, at best, someone posted in the chat that he's going to be a backup next year. I think he's lucky if he gets a backup job, because he doesn't fit the prototype is what a team wants for their backup. They want a backup to be a guy they can bring in and knows how to manage an offense. And that's going to be tough for him because he's literally hasn't even played in a preseason game. So
this guy's getting better. Will T-Law ever become a top 5 dynasty QB?
Sure, hope so. I just traded Clay mid first and a late first for him. Look at
no,
Scott.
that wasn't a mid and late, right? Didn't you?
105. It was a 105 and one something late.
No, I think it was better than that. But
okay, 104. It's like 104 and something. But either way, I'll say this: I know enough not to flat out say no. He won't become a top 5 dynasty quarterback. I mean, the guy, why he's not as good as Justin Herbert? Justin Herbert's a top 5 dynasty quarterback. T-Law had a much better college career. He's a better tools. The only thing he didn't have is what? Situation. He had Urban Meyer. Now he has Doug Peterson. They just added Calvin Ridley to the mix for next year. Calvin Ridley, Kirk Cousins in there. Then they're going to go draft Quentin Johnston. So, yeah, I think it's definitely within his range. Will he hit it? I don't know.
I mean, when I say no top 5, I think that's just saying it's a numbers game. It's going to be hard for him to get into the top 5 because I think the top 5, 6, 7, 8 are pretty strong. But if he's QB 8 and we're sitting here comparing him to QB 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and they're all kind of in the same like second tier, who cares?
Yeah. Right.
I think the real question is, does he get into the Burrow, Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson range overnight? Does he have a chance that in a given year we could prefer him over those guys? And if the answer is yes, then the answer is yes to the question. I don't think we should signal out top 5 because what's top 5? He could be your QB 5 and my QB 9, and it's the same tier.
Okay, so let's do this one. In a 1 QB and Superflex, what's the latest pick in 2023 rookie drafts that you would trade for a random 24 first? So let's say right now, in a super flex, are you giving a 12 team? Are you giving the 109 for a random 24 first? And now we say random. Let's just look at the team. We think it's going to be a mid 24 first. Are you moving the 109 for a mid 24 first in super flex?
So analytics at Dynasty, right? He did the research on this back in 2020. And he measured out the value of a random future first, and it's somewhere around a 105, 106. So basically, if you're trading away the 109, it's always a better deal to get the random future first. than to hold it. Now that's in single QB. Superflex, I think you can probably take a couple quarterbacks every year and add them to that and say, okay, now it's the 108, 109 is probably the sweet spot range. For me, it's a little more complex than that, only because I'm probably looking at it like I don't want to have, put it this way, if I had every year when the season ends, I go through and I track, okay, what picks do I have in what spot, right? So how many 101s, 102s, 103s, 104s, 105s, like there's some times where you randomly will end up with 8 108s. And I'll pick a spot like that where I go, that's kind of the sweet spot where I'm okay kind of hedging wherever that spot might be. So there I might make a deal in 1 or 2 leagues. But for the most part, I mean, I'll get Shane's take, but I mean, for the most part, I think you probably, if you're trading away like the 108, 109, you want to try to get an extra piece, right? Fill in running back, a first and a fill in running back, a first and a third or something like that. Like you want to get the tax, but those deals used to happen in Dynasty. They don't happen that much now. You used to be able to sell a sucker the 201 and get a feature first. That doesn't happen anymore.
If it still has an O in front of it, so the 10 something, I'm a little less apt to do it. Even when at 109, again, there's psychological stuff to it. 110, 111, 112, yeah, I'm shipping them immediately. Like I don't even need anything else. Just give me the 24 first. I don't know why that is. Difference of one number. But that's just how it is. Yeah, I'd ship it. 108, yes, I would trade it. I would try to get more back, obviously, preferably a second. But am I still loud?
I don't know. It's not. Maybe it's just me, but it's like it's as if you're chewing the microphone. You're that close to it, but it's an invisible one. Like we can't see it, but it's right there in your face. It's this like crazy technology.
Wow.
Okay, let's switch over to this. It might be on my end. We'll see. Scott used to get knocked for his volume.
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm turning it down.
Get your shit together.
Well, who's complaining? Is it just Clay complaining or?
Yeah.
No. Remember we had some commenters. I haven't heard anything since.
No. They used to complain about Scott's mic, but right now it's specifically Clay complaining about my mic, saying that I'm too loud.
I'm also kind of out of it, man. I was getting my ass kicked by my kids. Okay, who are roster cloggers and what should we be looking to sell them for if we can? Specific names with league formats would be nice. Okay, Jalen Reagor. Shane, is he a buy?
Never.
So he's one. Scott, you were dumping a bunch of, I don't even know how to say his last name, Ben Shoronek from the Rams.
Oh, yeah,
he's a roster clogger. Okay, in
an
all formats. Who are other popular ones on people's teams?
Okay, so go back and listen to the pod I did on DD, the last one that I did that talks exactly about this. I went through a ton of names. Here, I'll try to sum it up in 30 seconds. A true roster clogger, Ben Skowronek, what are you looking to sell for? Anything. What you're getting back, you actually gain value when you drop them, right? That's the definition of a roster clogger. They're wasting a roster spot. If you can find someone to give you something that has future equity, not fab dollars or something that's completely useless. But I mean, if someone's willing to give you a 4th rounder, it's like I try to get a 3rd. If I can't get a 3rd, I'll take a 4th. If I can't get a 4th and I'm fishing around and like we have some 5th rounders, if I'm fishing around there, then it's probably not really worth it for me to even bother. And I'll just cut them. And it's like I can literally get the player back on waivers next week if I want to.
Yeah, I was going to say or trade for fab.
And if someone else
get to that point,
well, and the other thing is if someone else picks them up, but I couldn't even get a 4th, I'm actually hurting another team by giving them that player because they're now going to have to make a decision. I've seen it where someone picks up a roster clogger and then the guy they cut, like I saw that in a league. I don't know if I posted it in the community chat, but someone in my league dropped this was stupid, but I dropped Odell Beckham, right? I dropped Odell Beckham. And that was a guy that like most people would hold on to because it's like, oh, he has a name. Maybe I can get a 3rd if he signs somewhere. I cut Odell Beckham, the guy, and this is one of those where as soon as you cut the player, the player becomes available. Everyone can just pick him up. First come, first serve. There's no waivers.
Oh, wow.
I cut Odell Beckham. He drops Chig Okonkwo.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, I pick him up. And it's on sleeper. So it literally, I drop him. He picks him up within 15 seconds. And then I pick up Chigaquanko within 15 seconds. And I'm like, dude, I just got the better player, but it's because I dropped Odell Beckham. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes people do that. They'll drop like a running back, and I'm like, man, I'd rather have that guy on a roster than the receiver. So yeah, I think roster cloggers, you try to get something, but then if you can't, then that's the definition of why they're a roster clogger. You can't get
So
anything.
guys like Noah Brown, Ome Deus Zacchaeus, Marvin Jones,
those aren't even
Devin
close.
Duvernay. One easy way is just go look at fantasy scoring, right? Look at the 45 wide receivers that all score between 8 and 10 points. And any of those that are third-year guys, you could probably go, well, that's a roster clogger. Is it a second-year guy? Pretty good chance he's on his way to being a roster clogger. Is he a rookie? All right. Well,
and do they have a name? If it's a name where you go, ooh, yeah, that guy stands out. He's not Cam Sims or someone like that. It's someone with a name. The guy with the name you might be able to trade. Now, my last show, forgive me, don't listen to this part, but the most famous roster clogger I talked about on the show, I don't know if you guys remember.
Was it KJ Osborne?
It was KJ Osborne. So, of course, today he goes out and has like 30 points.
Got a great game.
And to the point where some of my chats today, people are going, oh, KJ Osborne could be the wide receiver 2 over Adam Thielen next year. That
didn't age well, Scott.
Exactly.
Like that
exactly.
Bullshit. Okay. That's enough cursing for me. I don't normally curse. I normally give Shane crap for cursing. Here I am.
I mean, you got to keep it down,
a sailor.
Bro. I don't appreciate it.
Let's throw this in here from JC. 10-team PPR Superflex start 10 playoff team. Have Hurts. Should I trade Andrews for Goddard and the 201 to acquire the stack?
No. Well, especially you can't even start Goddard now, right? Because I'm assuming that you started him today.
Well, okay. Let's just. I don't know. Dude.
I mean, this is irrelevant
because he posted this tonight.
Andrews already played and Goddard's not playing. So this is a week 16, Matt. This is a week 16 trade, and I'm not really worried to do it unless I get to week 16, I assume. So
I'm not doing it anyway. I still have Andrews valued over Goddard. I like Goddard, obviously, and I'm not giving a pick on top of Andrews to get the Goddard stack. Yeah, I could see it if you wanted to do something like, all right, whatever. I'm going for it this week. I'm going to go for that stack. I'm going to give up Andrews and Zonovan Knight. There you go. You can have Zonovan Knight. Someone that's worth a third, but I'm not going to give up a 201 that has actual value.
Okay, let's see. All right.
We squeaked a trade in there.
Yeah. Oh, did you? Where is it? Throw it up.
No, we just did a trade question.
We did just kind of do that. Okay. Here we go.
That was a trade question.
No, you know why I was zoned out? Yesterday. All right, subscribers. You're gonna love our next show because Scott and Shane reviewed one of my rosters. Right. So you're gonna love that. And the reason I'm upset is because they said to trade for Goddard because he was going to be playing, and now he's not playing, huh?
Yeah, no, he definitely did not play. He's not playing tomorrow.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Oopsies. But so just so the crowd knows, you were starting Harrison Bryant in his place, right?
Yeah, who I dropped, and now I don't have a tight. Now I don't have a tight end to play tomorrow.
I mean, the good news is Harrison Bryant got a whole, 2 points today. So
pick up anyone.
Yeah, any living body would have been better than what you had. So you get Goddard for the future, and now you can go get another tight end. We'll help you pick one, Clay.
Okay, sounds good. No, it's going to be an awesome show. By the way, hit the notification bell if you haven't already for our show. But it's going to be a banger. It's going to be a freaking banger. Question here, as this is my first year in Dynasty. Should I ever buy pieces with picks or mainly try to build through the draft?
Both.
Yeah, sounds like such a cop-out, but okay. So what you want to do is you want to accrue multiple picks so that you have an excess of them so that you can trade them for players so that you can tier up when you need to. But yeah, you can't just build one way because you do need young players, right? You want to get to the point where you're not relying on rookies to carry your team that year. That you're just using them to replenish your existing roster.
So one thing I really like is protein powder, and you know what? I need money to buy protein powder, and so I need to get the money so that I can buy something that I like. So that's what draft picks are. You always want to have draft picks, but there's going to be times where you go, I just want something. Shane
Yeah.
wants stuff all the time, and he goes, you know what? I need to get that player. I got some picks. Let's go do it. So it's always about the timing, and it's always about having the flexibility. Like, you don't think about it this way. If you really wanted a protein shake, but you had no money, you would have to trade stuff. Here, I'll trade you like my old cell phone or something like that. You know, like you'd have to barter. You don't want to do that. You want to have flexible assets. That's what draft picks are.
Flexibility.
Fungible
Fungible
is
assets.
what Shane likes to say.
Non-fungible tokens. No, wait. Fungible assets, yes.
Yeah, we're gonna have some Dynasty Trades and 5 NFTs at some point. Okay, let's see here. Funny story. Listening to the super chat. Guess I got to be more careful. What is this? What is this? Darth Desmond. Funny story. My buddy found out I listened to you guys because of a super trade chat I posted about. Guess I got to be more careful. It's hilarious. Well, everybody should listen to us, right?
So I have a funny story that to compound on that. So I got a message on Facebook like a month ago, and it's from a guy that was friends with my roommate a decade ago.
Okay.
And he just messaged me on Facebook. He's like, "Hey man, we haven't talked in a decade." I'm like, "Yeah, okay. Like, you're still on my Facebook, but we haven't talked in a decade." So I'm like, I thought he was going to say something about the friend because we have a mutual friend, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh man, we haven't talked in so long, but the last 3 years I've gotten hardcore into Dynasty, and I realized you have a YouTube channel." It's just like weird, and like this guy used to come over to our house all the time and hang out. And when he came over, I still played like fantasy football back then. I was getting into Dynasty at the time. The guy never even liked football. Like, he'd be the one that would rather watch like a movie than football. You know what I mean? And now he like messages me and he's like, "I'm a hardcore Dynasty player and I found your show." And I'm like, that was really random. But like real life people running into you being like, "Yeah, I saw you on YouTube," you know, and he lives like 10 minutes from me. So
we're kind of a big deal. We're kind of a big deal. It's no, I'm joking.
That was a cute story though.
No, definitely adorable. All right, Tyler Triplett has one for us. Are Bateman and Sky Moore roster cloggers? Would you move them for seconds? I'm in dire need of running backs. What do you guys think about the RBs outside of Bijan and Gibbs in the draft? All right, so let's start with the first part. Are Bateman and Sky Moore roster cloggers?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No, they're not.
You can get a second for them. They're not roster cloggers, but I'm trading a second. I'll trade them both for seconds.
Bateman, I definitely would not trade for a second. Sky Moore, I would trade. Sky Moore, I would take a reroll. He's done absolutely nothing this year to warrant that he's worth.
Bateman.
Better than Sky Moore. Go back and look at his usage as a rookie.
Look, and I'm not saying Sky Moore is good. My point is that neither of them are. They're the same dude. Look, we want to be all process oriented. No. It doesn't matter. What has Rashad Bateman done in this league? He's averaged, let's see, 8.9 fantasy points and 8.6 fantasy points. I don't want to hear all of his excuses. Oh, my injury.
If you take away injuries, his usage is pretty good. The problem with Sky Moore, he can't even literally beat out McCall Hardman or Justin Watson.
No. Sky Moore is bad.
He can't even get on the field. His usage is great when he plays.
He used to be able to get on the field. Then he started fumbling every 2 times he touched the ball. So they said it's probably a good idea to keep this gentleman off the field. But to me,
to answer his question, they're not roster cloggers, but they are in the range of, definitely, if you have multiple teams with these guys and you're like, hey, I want to get rid of a couple of them, you're not probably risking giving up a superstar by trading one early, right?
Yep.
But then also, the idea of getting whatever you can get for him in picks is to convert to something else. And I do think this is a very deep running back class where you're gonna find good running backs with those. Say you can flip Bateman or Sky Moore for 204, something like that. Like, you're going to get a good running back there. So,
yep. And the second part is, I'm in dire need of RBs. What do you guys think about the RBs outside of Bijan and Gibbs in the draft? So, where are your guys' heads at on Charbonnet, on
Tank
Bigsby?
Do you like James Cook? No, I'm just asking, just yes or no. Do you like James Cook? Do you like Dameon Pierce? Do you like Brian Robinson? There's 20 of those guys in this draft. But I also can say Dameon Pierce might be the RB3 in this class. I think there's a lot of guys that are going to go in the range of, you better hope they land in a spot and they get Dameon Pierce opportunity, or they could just be backups that you need kind of injury luck to get jobs. But there's going to be a lot of running backs that we're going to look from this draft class that are backups or next man up starting next year.
Yeah.
So I think definitely it's a class you want to take as many of these guys as you can, but there's going to be a lot of them.
So if you have a bunch of here, I'll hide this this question here. If you have a bunch of, let's say in Superflex, if you have a bunch of seconds, are you down to take, like, let's say you have the 202, 206, 208, are you taking running backs?
Yes.
You're just taking running backs. You're loading up
Yeah.
on these guys.
Yeah. Look, I'm not taking wide receivers out of the first 2 rounds of the draft. And at some point, I'm going to get to the point where I'm not even taking them out of the first because all the good ones will be gone after that. But we're not there yet. So don't quote me on that just yet.
And in one QB, are you taking them even earlier? So all of your 108s, 110s, and whatnot, you're just hammering running backs there?
Well, I think so. Here's the misnomer. When you use a second round pick on a running back, I never expect them to start.
Yeah.
I don't care if they're a second round pick. The expectation isn't that they start. The expectation is that they are startable over their rookie contract. That's how I look at it. Now, if I'm using a 104 on a running back, they better be a guy where I go, I'm basically starting them week 1.
Yep.
Or sometime during this year, I'm starting them as like a lead running back that I can expect a lot of volume. But if I'm drafting next year Zach Charbonnet and he's an early 4th round pick or a late 3rd round pick, and he goes at the 206, the expectation is never that he takes over a backfield. It's that he gives me how many potential starts over a 4-year period where maybe there's an injury. Maybe the guy ahead of him isn't as good as he is, and he gets more opportunity quicker. But that's why you take those guys. You don't look at it and go, man, I took Isaiah Spiller at the 205 and he's a bust.
Yeah.
He's a bust in terms of he's probably never going to become David Montgomery, right? But there's a shot Isaiah Spiller in the next 3 years gives you 10 fantasy starts to where you're like, okay, I can start this guy and get 15 touches.
Right.
And that is worth more than a second round pick, right? Like you'd pay a second for 4 spot starts during a season. People are paying seconds for the Jamal Williams types, the Darrell Henderson types. Like, why not draft those guys?
Sure. Okay, let's go to here. There was another one. I don't see any more start. Here we go.
11 of them. I started 11 of them.
If Will Levis is a top 15 pick, where would you take him in rookie draft for a super flex league?
Top 8.
Yeah, I was thinking probably 106 at the latest.
Is Anthony Richardson also in the first round?
I'm assuming he already went. In this scenario, in my brain, he was drafted at 102. It went Bijan, Anthony Richardson, and then we started having fun.
Well, I think the point is, like, if he's in there too, he's going to be in the same range as Levis, but he's going to go higher.
Yeah.
So I think you're probably looking at like Levis is going to come off the board in the top 10. And this has nothing. I don't think this has anything to do with Will Levis, the player or the profile, right? It's a first round quarterback that would go in the top 15. Like that's worth, especially with this quarterback landscape, that's worth taking a shot on with where he's going to go. So yeah, top 10 for sure. But I think we would be comfortable top 8 given the quarterback landscape, especially if you have strong quarterbacks already. Like that's
pretty sure I'm going to be passing on him though, because he feels a lot like Danny Dimes to me, but that's neither here nor there. Other Danny Dimes had a better final season in college, at least, that he could lean back on.
Well, the interesting thing about Daniel Jones is like you probably can't get him for anything less than an early second right now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think this question is going to be one that gets asked a lot, and I do think that this is going to be more of a what does the quarterback landscape look like when we get to the rookie drafts?
Mm-hmm.
And I think people are going to realize it's pretty dire. So even if I draft Will Levis and he sucks, it's actually I think at the time that we're at right now in Dynasty, I think it's actually appropriate to start taking that gamble again. Where it wasn't appropriate is taking the 3rd round quarterbacks last year in the early second. That's when you're kind of like you're not going to have any leash.
No, but we'll always any first round quarterbacks. Look, I hated Kenny Pickett. I made fun of him as much as everyone else. But when it came draft time and he was sitting there at 107, and I'm like, it's a super flex league. I'm like, I think I got to kind of draft Kenny Pickett here and hope that everyone else is wrong and that I'm wrong.
Okay, from Jason Black. How would your strategy change in a 12-team league with only 4 playoff teams?
I have one like that. I have one league where only 4 of the 12 make the playoffs. So this is the last week of the regular season. I've been in this league for 6 years. I've always fallen short. I've only made the playoffs once, and I've always finished like in that 5 to 8 range. And it's frustrating because it's one of those where it's all by record too. So even if you have like the third most points, you don't get in, and it's just best record. So like you can have a really good team down the stretch, but you lost some games early and you don't get in. So what did I do different this year? I traded 3 firsts for Jalen Hurts before the season. And at the time, people were like, damn, that's a lot. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Before the season. So this is before he was smashing. And there was a lot of risk in that. But guess what? I'm 10-3 and I'm in third place. I'm probably going to make the playoffs. So that I think the answer to I'm answering my question by saying I think you have to take a little more risk because it's harder to get in.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's definitely harder to get in. So you do need to be a little more risk taking. You need to, like, obviously it's easy to say, I need to build the strongest team, but you need to do it early, like Scott did. Scott hates making trades early in the season. Some people like me just go way too hard in the offseason and we're like, no, this team's going to be a contender. I already know it. And we'll sell out. And then the season might come and you're like, oh, I'm not. But in this case, it would have been the right move and the smart move. So I need to get into some more 12 teams start, only 4 make the playoff leagues.
And get lucky. I sent out, this was like early August, I sent out 3 trades. 3 firsts for Trey Lance. Guy rejected. 2 firsts, which ended up being the 105 and the 104 for Russell Wilson. Guy rejected. The one that got accepted was Jalen Hurts. If I would have gotten either of the other 2 deals, I'm not in the playoffs, and it didn't work out. And now I'm probably screwed because I don't have any draft capital in the first round. So sometimes you got to get lucky too.
Okay, let's here's a question. I don't have the bubble for it, but
I brought up a question. Can't you see down there?
I was looking at the community posts, what the subscribers posted. No. You're good. Put it back up, please.
It's fine. I don't know.
Please do. I didn't find it.
This Shane has like a Dameon Pierce alert where it's a Dameon Pierce question. He's on it.
So should we hold Dameon Pierce, hoping he's going to be the Texans' workhorse, or should we try and trade him? If so, what should we try and acquire for him?
We talked about this on our last stream, right?
Yeah,
he's not going to be a horse.
Right. Dameon Pierce is the name is irrelevant. It's the draft capital that was spent on him, 4th round draft pick. It was that basically the situation is the reason he's a starter is because he had bad running backs on the roster to beat out on a bad team. So no, you don't want to hold on to a running back like this. There's a very good chance that they just get ethered the next season. Every running back just about that's been in his situation has lost their job, and you don't remember their names because they lost their jobs because they just draft someone else and they throw them in there, whether it's they take all the touches or some of the touches, but they take enough of them that you should always sell high on players like this. And once in a while you'll miss, but not often.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hold Dameon Pierce because he could be a workhorse, but I think his ceiling is like RB 15-ish. Like he's probably like Damian Harris, maybe a little bit better of a version. So if the question is, I think we're getting to a point now where Dameon Pierce is you can't sell him for anything. So you're sitting here going like, okay, no one will even give me a first.
Well,
I'm better off holding him. You know, like I'd rather have a guy that could get me 20 touches. But yeah, I think he's a great bet to have another guy just as good as him in the backfield.
Okay, let's put this one up here. This was posted before the game today. I have the 102 in a PPR super flex 12 team. My QBs are Cousins and nothing else. How would you value Young or Stroud versus anything else? I would take Kirk Cousins over Young and Stroud. No, I'm joking. After today's fantasy performance, did he put up like a 40 burger or something? 38.
He did. Like I don't want to admit that I might have napped, and I woke up and I looked at the score, and first I looked at the HQ chat, and everyone was making fun of Cousins, and then I look at the scoring, and I'm like, oh, he's giving me 0.9 fantasy points in the first half. I'm like, that's not great. And then he proceeded to put up like 44 on the day or something in that.
Did you see my tweet?
No.
So he at I believe the 11-minute mark in the second quarter, he had negative fantasy points.
Yeah.
He posted the 10th highest fantasy scoring week of the quarterback performance of the season.
So stop sleeping on
You
Kirk.
like that? You like that?
In a
So
super
he
flex,
proceeded in like 2.5 quarters plus overtime to go for 404 touchdowns. And you're like,
was a-
that came out of nowhere.
beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
But yeah, just in the instance of this, I'm taking either Stroud or Young over Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, I'm not adding a running back when I don't have another quarterback. I think we've talked about it a lot. I'm probably trying to use this pick in conjunction with another if I can, or if I don't have to, great, to buy a quarterback that's established. But if not, it's going to be Young. It's going to be CJ Stroud. It's going to be one of those two before I ever think about drafting Gibbs.
Okay, let's put this one up here. I got a 24 first and a 24 second in my 14 team league for my 2023 110 because of this show. Nicely done.
Yes,
Nicely
very
done.
good. Very
Yeah,
good.
that's a nice deal.
You're welcome. If we had super chats turned on, we would have gotten $5 there. Shane,
Yeah.
why'd you make the decision to not have super chats tonight? How are we supposed to keep this channel alive?
I don't make decisions. I think that's obvious and clear to everyone that's ever spoken to me.
Except for the fact that Shane's a director in his,
Oh,
in his
yeah.
real life. He's got a lot of people under him. Yeah. What do you got your hands up for? Please say Josh Allen, like
I think it's a
98
Dolphins
yard.
touchdown.
Waddle about 70 yards. Hey, trade. I just want to bring up one trade I made today. I traded Ron Higgins and I don't even know it. I think Colt McCoy, maybe a third, maybe a fourth. And I got Jalen Waddle.
Ooh.
For my playoff push. And Jalen Waddle just made it all worth it because he just scored a 60-yard touchdown. Anyhow, sorry, no one cares about your fantasy team.
No, I care about your fantasy team. Okay. Traded running back depth for picks and wide receiver depth. My team is now set at QB with Mahomes and Watson. I've got the 101, 104, and 5 second rounders. Need to build out the RB room and get a stud wide receiver. Should my strategy have differed?
Traded running back depth or picks and wide receiver depths at QB. I mean, you're in a good spot if you need to build out a running back room because you're going to be able to get running backs with most of these picks. I guess the question now becomes like, what do you want to do with those second rounders? Do you want to try to move up? We also don't know how many starters there are here. Like, we don't know, is this a 10-team start 9? Is it a, like that? There's some context that matters because I don't want to make 5 second rounders if it's a start 9. I'm looking at, can I add a second to that 104 and get one of the top 10 receivers or better? You know what I mean? Like, that type of trade I would do in that format. If it's a start 12, then no, I'd probably be fine just hammering running backs in the second. So it does matter.
Okay, let's put this one up here. Sell high on Miles Sanders, or can we expect this kind of production for the next year or two?
I would not expect this type of production out of him for the next year or two. I mean, everything that he's done this year has been anomalous compared to the rest of his career, except that he's still not used in the passing attack. He is heavily used in the rushing attack when they use him, but there are also games where he gets 9 rushing attempts, and even if he gets a 70% rush share of 15 running back rushing attempts, it's not great. He's never been used like this in the end zone, in the red zone or the goal line. So to me, it just feels like an anomaly. It feels like something's changed, and I don't know that it's him. I think he's in a great offense, obviously, with a great offensive line, which is really helpful. Again, if 3 out of your 4 seasons, you're kind of just a guy, I'm not going to buy into that you're all of a sudden the second best running back in the NFL, which is statistically what he is right now.
I mean, what's a sell high too?
It's got to be a first.
It's probably more of, do I sell him versus do I sell high? I mean, sure, I think we can say if you sell any running back high, we would do it for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a difference between sell high and sell because I don't believe he's going to produce what he is this year. So definitely got to look at that.
Okay, let's go here. I gave up Samuel and Mixon for Pierce, Burks, and an early 23 first. That first is a lotto first, so hoping for the 101. What do you think?
I assume that's Debo Samuel, because even if it's not, then I don't know what the other team was thinking. But even if it's Debo, Samuel, you're still essentially turning Mixon and Debo Samuel into Dameon Pierce and Treylon Burks. Like, you're getting the younger assets both there, and then you're getting an early first on top. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I would.
Shane would be in on let's trade Dameon Pierce now, right?
Get
another pick.
That's the only thing I would have done is just traded Pierce in season. But other than that, no, I love that deal.
You said I'm rebuilding, and it's only a 1 QB PPR though.
Okay.
Well, the smart thing he did is he got probably the two assets that he has an easier time moving now than the older guys. You know, Debo and Mixon are going to be tough to move in the offseason.
Okay. This one, I'll just read it. What would you be looking to do with the 102 if you're already set at QB? What would you look for to trade down to the mid first?
So here's a hot take from me. I'm trading for another QB. That's something I've been actively trying to do. I have a couple teams that have already 2 of the top 8. I'm trying to go buy another one. Are you trying to buy,
would you pay the 102 for Lance or Kyler right now?
No, I'm shooting for Watson, Lamar, Lawrence, Fields. Even if I have to add a little bit, with the theory being those are going to be the most scarce assets. They're going to be impossible to get.
Yeah.
Can I add a second to a 102 and get Fields? Something like that. Can I pull that off? If I can't, I can't. But I'm sending the offers out even when you look at my roster and you go, wow, you have Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. Why are you going and getting another quarterback? And it's really because I'm okay having 3 if they're 3 in that top range. Like that, I have a lot of protection if I have that. And I still only have 1 individual pick. And the worst thing that could happen is the team the league kind of calls your feet to the fire. And they're like, yeah, sure. We go draft that running back. You know what I mean? Go use that 102 on, they know I don't want to draft CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, even if that's the obvious 102. So can I try to get the other quarterbacks first before I even have to entertain that? So that's kind of what I'm doing. And it goes against his question. So Shane can answer his actual question.
You're talking a long time. Can you put that question back up?
Nope. I was about to say Shane definitely forgot the question.
You could tell Shane's eyes glazed over and he was gone.
No, it was if you have the 102, you don't need a QB and you're trading back to the mid first. What would you expect to get in return?
Just current market value. You'd have to throw me another first somewhere, whether it's the 108 this year, whether it's a first next year. I prefer a first next year because it's got a better chance of being a higher pick because, well, we definitely know it's not going to be, chances are it won't be the 108 or lower. So at least another first, preferably a 24 one, not a 25. You take
Jonathan Taylor for your 102?
Straight up, no.
You want the 102?
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor will be
throw that out there.
What year is next year for Jonathan Taylor?
You know what? Oh, he's old.
Yeah, he's old.
He's over 22, so he is old.
And look, and I know everyone's excited. I saw a tweet, and it was a good tweet yesterday that the running backs leading the scoring this year are all old. And someone said, "Oh, maybe we fade running backs too soon." And I didn't get into it, but I'm like, it's 1 year. 1 year. Okay. Yeah. Like we've got trends of a decade of running backs dying at the age of 26. Don't come at me for 1 season that there's 27-year-old running backs producing that all of a sudden it's a trend.
Or maybe the trend is the running backs that are producing, AKA the McCaffreys, Ecklers, Aaron Jones, Mixons, Chubb, like maybe all those guys were just really good.
Yeah.
Like it's going to take a lot to kill them versus just random age. Like they're not going to just die at age 26. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe that's the outlier. It's not the running backs. It's the fact that we have a group of running backs from like 2016 to 2018 that were all just like Hall of Fame level almost.
Yeah. Horses. Okay. Samuel asks, speaking of a guy who may play forever, how much longer do you guys think Kelsey can keep producing like this? He's going to be 34 next year. We talked about this in I forget what show it was, but basically saying that even if Kelsey goes down by like 10% in terms of production, he's still the tight end 1 or tight end 2 and a warp difference maker, right? Next year. And then the year after that, let's say he's 40% worse than he is this year. He's still going to be a beast for a couple of years, right? I mean, you'd buy him if you were on a 2-year plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm done. There's certain players, like I said, him, Derrick Henry. Like I'm not applying the normal rules to humans too, because they're not normal humans. There's something wrong with them. Like they're meta humans. I don't know, 2 more years, which frankly, if you could predict out 2 years for any player, no matter their age, you take that if you knew you were going to get 2 years of high end production from them. So I'd say 2 more years, and then might still be underselling them.
Do you think Noah Fant's a good player?
Why? Because he had 15 points last week?
No, what I'm saying this for is that Noah Fant's points per game in fantasy are essentially what Travis Kelce could give up and still be better than everybody else. So like you could literally remove like Noah Fant from his bean and he still would be better.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's a metaphor, but literally you could take another tight end that's posted 3 straight top 12 seasons before this and is still putting up like almost 10 points per game. And you could literally subtract that from Travis Kelce and he's still a top 3 tight end.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's got a long way to go before he falls back to the pack.
Okay, we probably have time for a couple more. We're going to call it at 10:30. Okay, so let me put this one up here because we're starting to get to where Ridley's going to get worth more and more as we get closer to the end of the season, right, and into the non-point scoring season. So, how do you guys feel about Christian Kirk in the future? How worried should I be about Ridley?
Well, Shane absolutely loves Calvin Ridley, so he can speak on Calvin Ridley.
I think Ridley's going to come into that offense and smash absolutely. But I also know that Doug Peterson likes to throw a lot. Every year he's with the Eagles, they finished with 13th or better in pass attempts. 13th was the worst they finished while he was there. Every other year they were in the top 8 or so. They like passing the ball. So I think there's more than enough meat on the bone for Ridley and Christian Kirk. I think Christian Kirk is a wide receiver too. He's a nice little player. I won't mind having him on my roster. I just wouldn't depend on him as a wide receiver 1 in my roster.
Yeah, I think this could be similar to, and I don't want to say they're as good as these guys when they were in their prime, but this could be similar to like an Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs situation. I think Kirk kind of profiles very similar to a guy like Tyler Lockett, and you just have to hope that Trevor Lawrence is very good. If so, Christian Kirk's still capable of top 24 seasons, even with Calvin Ridley there, but Calvin Ridley's also capable of a top 24 season. So you kind of have to look at them as they're probably one of the top 10 tandems in the league going into next year. There's a lot of risk because you've only seen it from Christian Kirk like 2 times out of 5 years, and Calvin Ridley hasn't played in basically a year and a half. So it's going to be a little risky, but I can definitely see that stack being a really strong tandem next year.
Okay, we've got 2 more starred that we'll do. Okay, technically 3 because this is a 2-parter. Austin asks, if you don't have a talented roster, is it ever smart to hold a bunch of bridge QBs to flip for draft capital in the offseason or during the season once QB injuries happen? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, even if your roster is talented, I'm always picking up QBs because those are one of the things that I know they'll always have value in super flex leagues come the season. Someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to need a starter. Brett Ripien is going to start his 2nd game or 3rd game of the season. Mm-hmm. Mike White was looked as a savior. Who else has started this year? Joe Flacco, Colt McCoy, Tyler Heineke. Like, yes, I hold on to these guys and then hope that I'm going to be able to move them in season for something.
His second part was I have a bunch of guys like Bridgewater and Brissett that will start somewhere next year but aren't top guys. So go ahead, Scott.
Well, just quick plug for my next DD show. I'm going to actually talk about quarterbacks that I'm keeping and quarterbacks that I'm not. Now, part of it's going to be kind of my own personal list, but there's going to be a science behind which ones you cut, which ones you keep. I think a lot of us are probably holding a bunch of backup quarterbacks right now. So even if you're in the playoffs, you're probably holding Brett Ripien, Colt McCoy, those types. Like there's going to be guys like that I'm just cutting. And there's going to be other ones where you go, all right, we've seen something from this quarterback in the past, whether they've been a starter in the past or whether they've come in as a backup and played. But I do think you kind of have to just make your own list and determine who you think is potentially worthy of keeping. Like, do you keep Gardner Minshew? Do you keep Tyrod Taylor? Like, there's justification of different names to keep. And you do kind of have to just guess at not just who's going to start, but who is going to be the really high leverage backup in, Kyler Murray's offense. You know what I mean? Like, who's going to be the Cardinals quarterback for 6 games next year while Kyler doesn't play? Is it going to be Jacoby Brissett? If it is, I want that guy because there's a shot he starts half the games,
Yeah.
not just because Kyler's hurt, but because he's coming off of an injury and he may start, the first half of the year. Like, trying to guess on those things is tough, but you know who the candidates probably are. And they're guys that have done it in the past, guys that have diverse skill sets, like guys that can fit in different offenses, and then guys that are free agents. That's the last thing. If a guy's stuck on a rookie contract, unlikely that player is going to get traded. They're going to most likely be stuck on their team. It's going to be the Jacoby Brissetts, the Teddy Bridgewaters. Those types are going to be the ones that move. Like, there's guys on rookie contracts that are just going to be backups, because why would a team move a cheap backup quarterback? Like Brock Purdy, for instance, right? A lot of people like Brock Purdy, but if they start Trey Lance, Brock Purdy's not getting traded to start somewhere. He's going to be the Niners backup for 3 years. So do you value Brock Purdy over you valuing, Jacoby Brissett? I'd probably rather have Jacoby Brissett because he has a chance to move and gain a little value quicker.
Okay, let's
Oh, it's specific. He said Teddy Bridgewater. Just give up. That's bad. No one
it was Teddy B and Brissett. But
Bridgewater's when the guy's on the 7th job where no one wants him, then I'm like, I'm probably out on this quarterback. I don't care if he starts anywhere.
Okay, how insulated is London with wide receivers fluctuating? And if the Falcons are still run heavy next year, unsure if I should be selling now.
No one's insulated through 2 years. So if he doesn't have a good year next year, he's going to be looked at as a wide receiver too. He's going to be looked at as someone that you need to move. So if you want to sell him now, I mean, sure, but I don't want to. I think he's been pretty good this year, except for the fact that his quarterbacks, his situation hasn't been great, but the peripherals have been fine. But that said, if I can add to him and go get someone that I know is completely established and I have no concerns about, like if I could add a second to Drake London to go get AJ Brown, I'm going to do that. If I could add a second to Drake London and get Amon-Ra St. Brown, I probably do that too. One, I know those receivers are established. Two, a second round pick's not going to cripple my franchise, even if Drake London does end up matching, what the receiver that I traded for. So I wouldn't have to feel too bad.
Yeah, I think he's very insulated just because his rookie year has been really, really good. I know the fantasy points haven't followed, but I think he's extremely insulated. He's got pretty much the entire complete profile. So I think you can pencil him into the top 15 and then just kind of pick your poison and diversify within that range.
We do get fickle though. If by the end of year 2 you're not smashing, people like me and you point out that there's a good chance that you're never going to smash.
For sure. Okay, so yeah, I was posting in the chat with everyone saying, asking if they like the format of tonight. No super chats, just doing more strategy talk, less like pure trades. Because some people have their trade deadlines already passed. I think actually 60% plus of our subscriber base has had trade deadlines in the past.
Yeah, you need to explain to your commissioners that that's a form of communism, and it's just awful. Right? They're treating you like babies by having trade deadlines, and you're adults. You don't need that crap.
So Tuesday will be more like a normal show, if you will. So we'll have supers on. We'll do some trades for sure, because people who don't have trade deadlines have inbox trades right now, which we normally do. But we thought this would be fun. I enjoyed it. I was all flustered going into this thing because I came from Baltimore City, driving down here. I had to get the kids down, and 15 minutes late. But anyway, guys, you want to say goodbye to our lovely 160 subscribers who already hit the like in the
appreciate y'all jumping in, watching the game with me. I know that the game's on, so it's hard to turn away from that, and it's a good game. So I really appreciate everyone that tuned in tonight.
Yeah, we like doing these shows. We like doing these kind of like evergreen shows where you could look and listen to this in 2 weeks, and a lot of the stuff would still be relevant. A lot of the ideas, really, the idea of doing this type of show is to make people think. Because we're not experts on players, who to draft, who to trade for. Like, we have opinions, but really it's coming up with a process and being able to think on your own. Like, literally, you should be able to watch this type of stuff. Once you get the reps at thinking this way, you can go back to your leagues and you're like, I know what to do. I don't need to ask a lot of the same questions. I think that's the goal. So I enjoy doing this show. Good idea, Clay.
Good stuff, guys. Enjoyed it. So yes, we will see you. We'll see you Tuesday. We'll do one more show before Christmas. Roster reviews. We always get a lot of inquiries after these streams on them. We're not taking on any new submissions until after Christmas, and we've got a bunch of folks who are on the quote unquote wait list, and I think we have a couple more outstanding that Shane are going to knock out. But if you sent me emails and I haven't responded, apologies. Don't hate me. I'll get to it. I'm just slammed in every social orifice. Instagram, TikTok, and this is going to turn into a TikTok. Me saying I'm getting slammed in every
all your
orifice.
orifices. No, that's they love that on TikTok. Also, happy Hanukkah to all anyone, any members of the tribe. Happy Hanukkah.
Very true. Very true. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. But we'll tell you that on Tuesday too. We'll see you then.
Peace, everybody.